It is so hot in LA right now, and I chose this week to attempt to crank this engine. So sit back, relax, let's get into it. There's a few things we got to do before we do that, so enjoy. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let's build oil pressure. Now that I finally got the grub screws, I can install the Skunk 2 dipstick into the magnetic dipstick holder, I guess, and we can finally get that installed. Alright, so I ordered some 1050 IDXs from Injector Dynamics. We're just waiting on some adapter wires, I guess, for the RDX to EV12 or whatever the plug is to adapt the Rye-wire harness. I originally bought the Rye-wire harness thinking that I was going to run the stock injectors, but you know, future-proofing the system, future-proofing the engine map, etc. So we're going to install these once I get some assembly lube or some kind of silicone lubricant to make sure that these don't tear during installation into the fuel rail. Fuel pressure regulator with an inbuilt fuel pulse damper. This will come in handy when we do all the things. But basically right now I've got a dash 8, so dash 8 AN fitting and a dash 8 AN fitting. So this will come from the back of the rail, and this is a return line. So the way that this runs is actually post fuel rail, so that it can build up the pressure throughout the entire fuel rail into here. There's a fuel pressure sensor adapter here. So we've got a Bosch 150 fluid pressure sensor, and that'll just go straight in there like that. Mounting wires, they give you this cool little thing. These two mount onto this from behind, so I'm going to mount it this way, and then the other 4 will go into the car itself. So we got to figure out where we're going to put this. I'm thinking up against the back of the engine bay, so let's go take a look. So I've already got fuel hoses run up from the bulkhead underneath the tunnel, So I might run them behind here, and then basically put the fuel pressure regulator just in here. I think that's going to be our best bet. So I actually can't remember which fuel line's what, so we're going to mark it. This is an aluminum tube, and then this is going to be the return. So the return is on the left hand side. So let's go underneath, and we're actually going to put some tape over the fuel hose so that I know what's what. New oil. Let's write return and feed on these and get them marked up in the car. Okay, got this hose marked as feed, and here's the quick disconnect. It's marked up there. I don't know if it'll focus, but it's marked. So now we know what's what. We can start to plan out, once the intake manifold arrives, exactly how we're going to do it. My goal is have another dry brake up here that goes to a 90, which then comes underneath and then up and does a 180 and goes that way through the fuel rail, and then that'll come out into the fuel pressure regulator down here with the return back up to where the other dry brake will be up here. So we're going to probably make a nice little mount for the dry brakes in here. Kind of want to mount them on the back wall there. We need to cut down the feed line and get it connected up to the dry brake so that we can then kind of put these in where they're going to be. So we'll get onto that. First off, I have these AN line holders, I don't know, clips, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to join these. I'm going to join the feed and the return together and then mark where I want to cut it, and then I'll pull the feed out so that I can cut it and do the dry brake outside of the engine bay. So I'm actually really not happy with the way that I ran this. So I'm going to disconnect it, I'm going to feed it back through, and we're going to actually run this outside of those tabs. I'll use those tabs to actually just zip tie them up, but I don't want to run the hose through there anymore. I think I don't have to. So I'm going to take this one off. We've got our mark there. All right, so we've got another straight here. Basically grab this off. I assume everyone knows how to do AN fittings. This in here, this on first, this in here. Squeeze the two together, get yourself a nice little, hopefully not leaking fuel line. Now we're going to match the dry brake. So I put, you can see that one's already taken off, and so this side will be what's coming up from the tunnel, and then this will go. And it's basically so that no fluids can come out. So I want to be able to disconnect the engine from the fuel system without worrying about leaking fuel anywhere, in case we have to drop the engine quickly. So just kind of serviceability things. I don't want to have fuel kind of hitting me in the face and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to do that. And I'm also going to probably, it'll make bleeding the fuel system, not bleeding the fuel system, but like if I have to dump all of the fuel, I can just disconnect this, and then I'll probably have another one that's just, I can throw this in and basically push the fuel into a bucket. That's kind of the idea anyway. So let's get making this. Alright, so just installed it. Now you can see, quick disconnect, dry brake, no fuel spills is the plan. So let's feed this back up into the engine bay and get them connected. Now that we've got the dry brakes installed and everything's passed up kind of in its relatively proper position, we need to plan where the flex fuel sensor is going to go. So my guess is here, and then maybe the fuel pressure regulator will be here. So we just have to make sure that we're not going to be in the way of the water hoses. So, and I need to make sure that I'm on the right path for the feed into the rail. So I think that we're going to probably wait for that there's a part of me that kind of wants to run a very short feed line to the rail from the back, and then basically off of the front of the feed rail go down under and then to the pressure regulator here. I just don't know how I feel about there being a hose here. So preferably we could run it all back along here and then kind of loop. So I think that might be the best plan of attack. But yeah, we'll kind of just mark out and mock up exactly where things can sit. Just saw me jack up the front of the car, so we already have a -8 fitting here for the feed, and we need to do a -6 45 degree so that we can feed it up to there to another -6 45 degree from the surge tank. I also grabbed another Bosch 044 check valve, so we're going to install that on what we'll be using as the lift pump, and then that basically adapts to a -10 ORB, and then we'll probably do another 180-8 off of that. So it'll be a -10 ORB to a -8 male, which will then go to a 180 degree so we can fling it back to the fuel filter. I guess starting up from here is probably a good spot, but I need a -8 180, so that'll run then down along here into a -8 45. So I need a -45 from there and a -45 from there to make a really small hose, and then I'm probably going to do another -45 from there up to that 45 that's already there. So if we go around to the back of the car, first things first is we need two -8 3/8 fittings, so adapters so that we can run the flex fuel sensor. Then we would probably need another straight -8 and then a 45-8 from there, which will then go into a straight on the return side. We've already got a -8 there, and we've already got a -8 straight there from the feed, which will come off of the rail. So the idea is that there's a 90 degree from there, we'll go underneath 180 into the rail, and then there'll be a 90 degree off into there. So that seems to be how we're going to do it. Just comparing the two, JDM Ineos oil filter. It's all in Japanese, pretty cool, but we're gonna just basically do the fitting instructions. I've got a tool coming, so we'll be able to torque it up in tomorrow, but for now we can smear some oil on the gasket and get it hand tight in there. It's kind of my trick. I don't know if other people do it, but I basically just shake that and then quickly take the lid off, and you've basically got some oil in the cap that you can then use to grease the gasket. I'm gonna pack it in. I'm dripping. There's a heat wave in Los Angeles right now. It's brutal. It sucks. But that's pretty much a solid point to stop tonight. We just have to torque up the oil filter. Tomorrow we'll put some oil into the engine and then we'll basically attempt to crank it. So yeah, the next you'll see is hopefully that going well. See what happens. Last crank. It fucking cranks, man. Massive shout out to Sean. Massive shout out to all the boys that were on voice chat on Discord, on the Stansworks Discord. I'll put a link in the description. You got to join it. The community there is always the best. I love all the dudes on there. I'm glad that people got to see it. It was great. Next steps are, we're still waiting on the intake manifold from K-Power. We're going to make a fuel system order. I've got all the AN fittings sorted in my brain and on a piece of paper, all that kind of good stuff. And then put fuel in it. And basically, I hope the next episode is it firing up and actually running. It won't run for long because we don't have a water system yet, but once the water system's designed, it's all in my head too, then we're good to actually potentially bolt up some drive shafts, axles, whatever you want to call them, and take this for a rip down the street. Like, it's been about a year and a bit since we took the Porsche engine out. So for us to get a first crank by the end of the year, potentially a first drive by the end of the year, I'm super keen on that. So yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you've got any comments, leave them. It's good for the algorithm. It feels dumb asking for it, but seriously, it would help me out. Hopefully we get to, at some point, be in front of some faces. I'd love to partner with CSF, and I'd love to partner with someone like Radium. You saw I'm pretty much extensively using Radium components. But I am using Racetronics fuel hoses and adapters, so Racetronics as well, Canada boys, Commonwealth, come on, let's sort it out. Anyway, long-winded outro. I'll see you on the next episode.